Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am back with another episode of What Happened in Crypto this week. And let me tell you, it has been a crazy 24 hours. You probably heard about the Bitmart hack, which we're going to talk about later, probably in about 15 minutes or so. But before we get into any of the crazy news that's been going on, because that is the second big hack of the week, we're going to talk about the first one as well. We can have a look at CoinMarketCap. Yesterday was also another crazy time. The market dipped significantly. If you go back more than 48 hours, Bitcoin was riding pretty high at 59,000 or 58,000, and then it just dipped. I remember I woke up in the morning and my partner was like, hey, there's another sale on crypto. I'm like, what? You can see the red line right now. Ethereum has come back up significantly. And I remember seeing the headline that a lot of Bitcoin people or money from Bitcoin is flowing into Ethereum now because of its perceived stability. Who knows what the real reason is behind that. So Bitcoin still down from its previous high. Ethereum going back up, right? Up 3.87%, 6.51% in the last 24 hours. Bitcoin, of course, going back up. It was down. I think the low was down to like 42,000 at the bottom of the liquidation that was happening. I mean, pretty much everything has gone back up in the last 12, 13 hours or so. Solana, you pretty much don't see anything in the red in the last 24 hours except Avalanche. And I have no reason why that is, because Avalanche announced they hit a million wallets this week. So that is a strange reason. Everything's looking good on CoinMarketCap overall. You know, sometimes dips happen in the market, and we're going to look at some of the stuff just now as we look at tweets. So one of the big things, of course, is let's have a look at Bitcoin since we're right here. Is, you know, people are still waiting, because for the last half of this year, and I have to say I was a believer, I'm still kind of a believer that Bitcoin's going to hit 100K at the end of the year. And I've got to mention this as well. None of the things that I'm saying, right, is I'm not a financial advisor, as this cool little banner on the bottom of your screen says, right? So as I was saying, is I was a believer that Bitcoin could hit 100K before the end of December. I think with the way the market has changed, the typical sort of 4-year cycle that analysts have previously relied on is no longer valid, which is why we're seeing the market the way it is today. Not to mention, you know, no one expected the coronavirus. No one expected the inflation the way it exists at the moment, and supply issues and logistics issues and lots of inequality at the moment. So I'm leaning more towards the prediction that we're probably not likely to hit 100K. I still think we'll get back to high 50s, but we'll have to see. We have to look at Plan B. Plan B says, for context, 2017 bull market. It shows that the full cycle of Bitcoin, and it ends up where we are at the moment. And of course, lots of people saying, you know, disappointed. You know, a guy was like, I sold my house, leveraged 20x on Bitcoin when there was 66,000, got liquidated. Thank you so much. Okay, so this is really silly. I have a friend as well when I was living in Ireland, and he lost a bunch of money leverage trading. And leverage trading is not for regular people like me. It's definitely for people who are more experienced in trading to be able to sort of take advantage of that. So be careful if you are doing that. I would highly suggest you don't, but if you want to, okay, go ahead. All right. Today's dump brought to you in part by spoofers on Binance. If you don't know what spoofers is like making fake transactions, which is what I looked it up. And it sort of like lulls people into thinking that something is happening in the market, but actually something is not actually happening. So spoofers on Binance, apparently they made people think that the market was selling when it wasn't. And so that's why you had this huge dump. But somebody says right here, no spoofing right here. And let's move on then to our first big story. Our first big story for today is from CoinDesk, published by ℍ𝕠𝕥 on December 4th, 2021. So it's just one day ago. It says, Universal Stablecoins, the end of cash and CBDCs, 5 predictions for the future of money. And let's look at the headlines again. If you haven't watched this before, all the links for the highlights will be in the show notes, so you can read these stories for yourself. I love articles like this because they sort of give you an outlook, especially as we're heading towards the end of the year, what you can expect from the markets, what you can expect from crypto moving into 2022. Decentralized finance won't eclipse centralized finance. Eventually, they'll just blur it together, and I'll totally agree with that. I think, especially as you guys know, I'm out in Taiwan. Centralized finance is still the biggest thing here in Japan and Korea, and I've mentioned this a ton of times. People are conservative investors here. Very few people have gotten into crypto. Very few people have gotten into the stock market. People still go with safe ways to sort of invest. So what I can see is banks offering DeFi in the next 2 to 3 years here, but it's still being a very minor product, something that people like myself would use if my bank was offering it. So it's really cool. El Salvador won't be known as a watershed moment. It will be known as a reality check. Okay. For many Bitcoin fans, El Salvador's adoption of Bitcoin in 2020 was a watershed moment. All right, and then this guy talks about that. That being said, it'll be remain stylish for nations to adopt Bitcoin, but only ceremoniously as marketing trick. All-out Bitcoinization attempts like El Salvador won't spread. I don't know about that. I think, of course, El Salvador adopting Bitcoin has had lots of issues. There's going to be tons of issues, but I think in the long term, as unlikely as it seems, it's going to be good for the country. It'll probably be good for other countries as well. Maybe not adopting Bitcoin as your national currency, but accepting Bitcoin as legal tender. I mean, on top of your fiat, be it US dollars or South African rands, whatever your currency is. Cash will fade away, so will CBDCs. Wow, that is big. That no CBDCs, because that is the big thing. People are expecting, to get in on crypto, and this guy is saying that there won't be any CBDCs, which is, I can eventually see it, because, I mean, central banks have such a long way to catch up to Ethereum or catch up to Avalanche or catch up to Solana, that they're just, even if they started, their own crypto, with the exception of China, because, I mean, China can just tell everybody what to do and they have to do it. So, I mean, we'll see how that goes. And number 4, if governments don't force KYC across the entire internet, Master and Visa card will, of course, terrorism is still a thing, terrorists, right-wing groups, things happen, and you need to know who's doing what with their money. So I would imagine that there will be some sort of real name system implemented like it is here, like it implemented in Korea, in China, that you have to use your ID when you're using a lot of websites, and you have to plug in that, and so the government knows, oh, this person said this thing. I mean, there won't be, as much as crypto people love privacy, love hiding behind, their wallet addresses and stuff, I don't think that will exist in the way it exists right now, just because it can't. I mean, this is the world we live in. Money is laundered, criminal organizations do bad things, and we have to stop it. All right, and along comes a universal stablecoin standard. So that will be, because there are tons of stablecoins at the moment, and I think that is a disservice to the idea of stablecoins when there's so many different stablecoins. And what we do need, and I mean, this is probably the Star Trek person in me, is that the fact that we need a universal stablecoin or universal money, or I mean, but in Star Trek there is no money, right? So, but we need something that allows like universal money. So when I go anywhere and I travel, I can use my universal stablecoin, which would be really, really awesome. Our next story for today is, should you line your nest egg with him? Could it help you retire? So this is a regular story. It's from USA Today, which is one of the biggest newspapers in the States. A recent survey by Bankrate found that 49% of millennials, 37% of Gen Xers, and 22% of baby boomers are comfortable investing in crypto. That's really, really good. I remember reading numbers 2 years ago that were not even close to any of this. So this is asking the question, like, if you had bought Ethereum a long time ago, right? Like, I started mining Ethereum in 2017, and if I had done so, would it make a difference? And I'm sure you guys have seen those videos on TikTok, seen it on YouTube, that if you had bought $1,000 of X crypto, what would it be worth now? And this is just asking that question. And it talks about the rise of Ethereum. Now, Ethereum is not sitting at 4,660. It's 4,200, as we just saw before. Is Ethereum going to be worth it for somebody's retirement? I think so. A lot of people have said, right? And I think you've seen those stories come about in 2021, is that everyone needs to have 0.1 Bitcoin. Everyone needs to have at least one Ethereum, which is the most recent sort of headline I've seen. At least everyone should try to have one Ethereum moving forward, because it is the granddaddy, the Amazon of cryptocurrency. I mean, I always use this comparison on Reddit anyway, that it is, it is the biggest system for dApps. It is the biggest earner or for DeFi, Uniswap, SushiSwap, that sort of stuff. As high as fees are, people are still using it because it's easy. There are tons of tutorials, tons of educational videos about it. I always argue with Solana people about this, that the problem with Solana is there's just not a lot of easy ways to do things. There's not a lot of marketing behind Solana at the moment. So Solana is a very niche ecosystem. Avalanche has the same problem. And until those two ecosystems sort of catch up, Ethereum is still going to be king, and Ethereum is still going to be king, just like nobody's ever going to overtake Amazon because they have the infrastructure. They've been so ahead of every other competitor, and I believe Ethereum is the same way with its layer 2 solutions, with probably what will be a layer 3 solution, I would imagine, in the future as we experience more adoption with institutions like MasterCard, like Visa. And let's move on to the next story at the moment, which is a really cool story. FTX's key principles for market regulation. If you're living in the US, not even in the US, a bunch of countries are looking to regulate cryptocurrency. And so FTX preempted this by coming out with 10 sort of rough rules. Now, let me mention, this is a very long document. It's something you should definitely save for bedtime reading or educational reading. But the first one is proposing one primary market regulator with one rulebook for spot and derivative risk listings. So that would be really, really cool. Because at the moment, right, there are a bunch of regulators in the States, and no one regulator has the power to regulate the entire crypto industry. That would be really cool for a president of the US to sort of say, okay, we're going to create the crypto regulation department. That would be a really CRD, but whatever that department is, that'd be really, really cool. Full stack infrastructure providers and maintaining market structure neutrality, custody of crypto assets, key functional and disclosure requirements, full stack market infrastructure providers and the life cycle of a trade. Okay. Trading platform providers ensuring regulatory and market reporting, ensuring customer protections, right? Like that is the big thing. The SEC chair Gary Gensler has been saying. He's always saying that they're trying to protect consumers. And as we just saw with Plan B's tweet, people doing leverage trading and losing their house. A guy sold his house, or I saw it on Reddit recently, a guy took out a $7,000 US loan to purchase Solana. So no, if the market crashed, this guy would be left with nothing. There needs to be some kind of consumer protection, but also there needs to be room for people to be able to take risks and make money and not lose their clothes off their backs if they do lose money. Ensuring financial responsibilities are met, ensuring stablecoins used on platform meet appropriate standards. Of course, that has been the big thing again in the States and in a few other countries, that stablecoins need to be regulated. Anti-money laundering, know your customer compliance. Okay. Cybersecurity safeguards. Of course, we're going to talk about that just now as the next story with Badger DAO. So you've already seen this story as well. It is someone stole 120 million in crypto by hacking a DeFi website. Not the first time, not the last time. Hopefully it will be the last time, but not going to happen. So dozens of wallets were drained before Badger DAO could freeze its vaults. The issue came from someone inserting a malicious script in the UI of their website. For any users who interacted with the site when the script was active, it would intercept Web3 transactions and insert a request to transfer the victim's tokens to the attacker's chosen address. That is smart coding, but terrible. PegShield points out one transfer that yanked 896 Bitcoin into the attacker's coffers. That is impressive. Another hack, again, this is sort of the nature, like if you listen to our 4th episode of the Inside Crypto podcast, we spoke to our quantitative analyst, Roland Gamel, and he mentioned this is the nature of crypto, is that it's still growing, it's still learning. So think of all the banking hacks, regular banking hacks and banking robberies before banks sort of, upgrade their security system. So this is likely to happen until we get better security in DeFi on the internet itself. Until users as well have better security, which is why I did a video about security devices and how to be safe as well. Badger mentions this. So they've retained data forensic experts, chain analysis to help. They've contacted the authorities. Hopefully they can get some of the money back, or the hacker gives them some of the money back, or they had insurance, but I don't think so. I think very few people have had insurance and this kind of stuff. And they mentioned, you know, two-factor authentication as well. That's really, really important. All right, and here it talks about ℍ𝕠𝕥. ℍ𝕠𝕥 is a decentralized autonomous organization. We talked about DAOs last week, run by our users, not VCs, whales, or institutions. Securities and audits. Again, all this stuff is great. Crypto security people, we can't possibly run a secure messaging app over the web because everything's too insecure. That folks, let's secure 100 million using JavaScript served by Cloudflare. Okay, that's just a joke. So really unfortunate. Hopefully something good happens out of all of this. And let's keep going. So we have the Bitmart security, which just happened this morning. It is 4:55 p.m. here in Taiwan. We have identified a large-scale security breach related to one of our ETH hot wallets and one of our BSC hot wallets today. At this moment, we are still concluding the possible methods used. Hackers were able to withdraw assets of the value of approximately $150 million US. You have to look on Twitter for this. There's lots of information about this. The CEO of Bitmart, ℍ𝕠𝕥 𝕆𝕟, he posted about this as well. People were saying it is not a hack. It is definitely a hack. Someone stole the money and they are selling it at the moment. I was just on Reddit a little while ago, and they were talking about that you could watch the guy getting rid of all the assets he sold. He stole a bunch of SafeMoon, a whole lot of altcoins, Matic, Dodge, BNB, a bunch of stuff, and it's a shame as well. So again, I don't know anything about Bitmart, if they're insured or not. Bitmart is a Chinese exchange. As you can see right here, is right, they're excluding everyone from mainland China in November, of course, because China has banned crypto. Let's move on to the next story, which is this. Ethereum fees suggest DeFi is becoming the playground of the rich. A story from 2 days ago. The sort of key point here, Ethereum hosts the majority of DeFi activity. I've already just said this. However, fees on the network have remained on the rise, with values touching up to $100 per transaction. So that's crazy. So, you know, Ethereum is going to be moving to proof of stake next year. A lot of people say that will alleviate the gas problem. Vitalik Buterin just introduced a new EIP that's being discussed at the moment to sort of alleviate the gas problem earlier. Hopefully something does happen. A lot of people, including myself, believe this is not going to happen just because too many people are using the network. A lot of people like myself are unwilling to switch to networks just because it's too difficult, too dangerous, and it would require time to learn, and I'm lazy to learn, and I don't want to give up my free time to learn this sort of stuff. Whales are taking over DeFi. Yes, you can see some of the crazy transactioning happening on DeFi. That is a shame because, you know, my big thing with crypto and with a lot of people as well is that we want regular people, give them the financial ability to feel safe, because millions, if not billions of people around the world are just sort of hanging on by a thread, not having enough money in their life. And that sort of sucks, you know, for them. They don't have enough savings. I mean, I was like in my late 20s. I was living paycheck to paycheck. So in this sense, crypto can go back to its roots of empowering people. Okay. Let's get on to the last story, which is, I love Cointelegraph because they always have really cool custom art. NFT music platform to disrupt Spotify in 2022, Saxo Bank predicts. Spotify and Apple Music reportedly cut 75% from musicians' revenues, together with the cut paid to labels. So the use case for NFTs could prove particularly compelling in the next step for technology for content generators in the music industry, as musicians feel unfairly treated by the revenue sharing models of the current streaming platforms like Spotify and Apple Music. You guys have probably heard this story, right? Musicians have been complaining. Streaming companies pay them like very little money. If you Google Spotify revenue for musicians, you can actually see it's pretty terrible for the number of plays, for the amount of money, the amount of time new musicians put into making songs, and the amount of money they get paid per stream on Spotify. It's terrible. Not to mention the amount of money they get paid to labels. And you know, people have said that a lot of musicians make money, the biggest amount of money is by concerts. And with a lot of countries with Omicron going on at the moment, of course, no musician's going to tour. No musician's going to be liable for what would happen if you hold a concert and people got Omicron and some people died, or some people got really sick, or some people got hospitalized. So I think NFTs are definitely the solution. There's a guy from a company called Melon. They're doing NFTs via TikTok, and they're sort of like tokenizing TikTok videos. And I think that is the future for NFTs. Our research lead, Ellie, at 21 Shares a Moon, he made some really cool, interesting cases for NFTs and supporting musicians and stuff. And I think that is the way it's going to work. And it says right here, as previously reported, Spotify has been paying attention to the cryptocurrency industry, looking for talent with a crypto background in late 2020. The firm is also well aware of the rise of NFTs, as it mentioned NFTs in its Spotify Wrapped 2021 compiled for users on Wednesday. Okay, so I think that's going to be the future. So I'm not a big music person. I'll say this right now. I don't know what happened when I turned like 30 something. I just like, oh my God, music gives me a headache. I listen to music maybe 10 times a year, right? That's not a lot of time. But I would be willing to support artists, YouTubers, TikTok people with NFTs to say, hey, if I buy this NFT, this gives me this benefit, sort of like in Patreon, in the sense like Patreon is a website you can use to support creators. And I pay $100 for your NFT or for this video. And with that, I get to chat to you for 2 minutes a year, or I get to be on your YouTube video, or I get to have my name at the end as a credit on your YouTube video, or some sort of benefit for buying this NFT. And that would be cool, I think, and I'd be willing to do that to support content creators or musicians or whoever they are. This is it, guys. So now I want to tell you some exciting things are happening. So we're going to have an AMA this week, and the official announcement is going to go out. So I'm not going to say anything more than that. We also have something launching tomorrow. So keep an eye out on your social media. And I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys think about everything that's happening this week.